This discussion is not for everyone on the semen retention journey. It is for those who have attempted to take this path prematurely without first fully experiencing the feminine. It is for those who have been unsuccessfully attempting long-term retention for several years and are finding that some force is still pulling them back. They have a nagging feeling of an unfinished business that must be attended to before they can fully let go and commit to the journey ahead. For those who have not reached this block, or for those who have already transcended the issue being discussed here, by all means disregard it and continue on your journey as you are. If, however, you find yourself in the third group, this may highlight something that you have been suppressing. Have you ever noticed how different the feeling is when releasing to an artificial stimulus such as a screen compared to during physical intimacy in the embrace of a female? The list of debilitating symptoms that follow a screen relapse is endless and well documented. But this is not so when one releases during intercourse with a female. What is it then about the method of release that produces a very noticeable difference? The screen is fabricating an impossible sexual entity that does not exist. It makes a person crave something that can never be attained. Yes, this person you are seeing in pixel form does likely exist somewhere in the physical world. But if you could actually meet them and experience their body, their voice, their mannerisms, their scent, their spirit, their virtues and flaws, you would see that the screen had fabricated a lie. The physical sexual experience with the divine feminine is an experience that cannot be translated through a screen. Although there is some cheap stimulation when viewing these 2D sexual scenes, somewhere in the back of your head you're thinking, why can't I actually be with this person for real? You desperately want to experience what is being portrayed on the screen. It is a pain that most are familiar with. For most men it feels like a pipe dream. This person being portrayed in 2D seems impossibly out of reach. He feels totally unworthy of ever actually interacting with her, and this feeling of unworthiness latches onto him in his everyday life. Every woman he sees in the street reminds him of the unattainable scenario on the screen. When out at a store, he can barely look the cashier in the eyes. She too seems impossibly out of reach. The realization that this imaginary entity is unattainable to him creates a desperation in man. He plunges into a depressive state immediately after the release. He realizes he was tricked and that it is now too late. He is not united with the feminine at all. He has created chaos in his own body. For many men, 99% of their sexual experiences come from the friction of their own male hand, combined with pixels on a flat screen. It is no wonder that this has reinforced the idea that actual sexual experience is unattainable for them. Their body is being taught that this is the only way they will ever experience the feminine, through a cinematic pretending. When he releases by this method, something inside him knows that he is now a little bit further away from physically uniting with the feminine. Every artificially stimulated release puts him in a slightly darker place. Releasing when in the physical embrace of the feminine is different on an alchemical level. There is certainly a tiredness which comes from the physical exertion and release of seed. But this union with the feminine provides an energy of its own, and so the losses are far less damaging. Instead of the shame, low energy, anxiety and depression that follow the screen relapse, you feel like you now have a fresh slate to work from. Even though your retention streak has ended, it doesn't feel half as bad. There is barely any of the hormone dysregulation, dopamine burnout, and physical discomforts that are present immediately following a screen release. It feels more like a natural renewal, like one cycle has ended and the next is beginning. This is not said to encourage retainers to relapse. Rather, it is merely pointing out the energetic differences between the natural and unnatural release. This physical union between masculine and feminine reinforces the actual human body connection of flesh on flesh, of real spiritual interchange, of eye contact, of pheromones, of verbal communication, and even of love. None of these things exist when a human is self-stimulating to pixels on a screen. The screen is nothing more than an artificial drug that is slowly destroying you. These pixels created an expectation in the brain that could never be satisfied. And this is what caused all the years of pain and the physical and mental ailments within the body. Once he starts to have real human experiences, he begins to decondition his mind and body from artificial stimulus. A little bit of joy starts to return. He gets a glimpse of how unreal these depictions on screen were. He realizes it was mere mental stimulation, imitating something else. It was falsely arousing his dopamine system without any of the actual physical contact. This puts the body into a chaotic state of hormone dysregulation and energy fluctuation that is very hard to escape. It is not woman who is making you sick. It is the impossible to reach 2D depiction of the feminine that is leaving you yearning for something that does not exist. It is like you are homesick for a place that you have never been. It was destined by nature for masculine to unite with feminine, even if for only one time, so that the experience can be tasted and transcended. Refusing this call causes great pain within both sexes. The male needs to get clear of his screen addiction in order to recover his sexual energy and natural magnetism to experience the feminine in the real world. Years of artificial stimulation has stolen his ability to achieve the human connection in the natural way. For many, when they finally experience physical intercourse, they have no idea what to do. It is so foreign from the 2D depiction they have been absorbing for years that for some, their sexual organs do not even react. They cannot go through with this most fundamental biological act. He is so conditioned to being the observer that his body cannot accept the main role. This comes as a stark but needed reality check. Society puts the female body on a pedestal. But after a period of deconditioning and his first experiences of female intimacy, he begins to see the truth. He realizes that the female is just flesh and bone like him. The imaginary 2D entity on the screen never existed and never will. This realization is spiritual healing for the male. Suddenly he realizes his worth. The feminine is extremely perceptive. She senses your realization and is drawn to you. She knows the game is up and she is relieved. She was waiting for you to work it out for yourself. This is the ultimate nature of the feminine. It is easy to spot the inexperienced male. His eyes are darting around, searching for any crumb of female attention. He is constantly wondering what the female body is really like. He senses that his 2D experiences may be false, and his intrigue is written all over his face. The feminine picks up on this and immediately disqualifies him from physical intimacy. She knows if a man has not laid with a woman before. The eyes alone tell the story of his screen addiction. The man who has been in the feminine embrace carries himself differently. There is a calmness about him. He is not in a constant panic searching for this elusive physical experience. She recognizes this and is drawn to him. She wants the man who has done this before. She does not want to be his first entry to that world. Some people attempt to jump from years of a chronic PMO habit straight to complete semen retention, having never experienced actual female intimacy. This may be possible for a while, but ultimately the pull to the feminine will be too strong. It is unproductive to pretend you are purposely choosing to never experience the feminine. It is more likely that the opportunity has not arisen for you because of the low energetic state you have been stuck in due to excessive releases. First, you must escape this low state. Only then will you feel worthy of union with the feminine. She senses this too. It is difficult to go on a meaningful retention streak while this missing piece of the human experience is nagging at you from the back of your mind. If you know that this is something that needs to be transcended in this lifetime, then by all means, you must go through this stage. This is not a thing to be judged morally by anyone, but the inner guide. There have been notable figures throughout history who were able to bypass the stage of physical intimacy. This takes a rare man indeed. It is often accompanied by significant spiritual practice for the average male in modern society. He must fully embrace the feminine and move through this phase naturally. Only the man who has fully experienced what it is to be one half of the whole can make the conscious decision to go it alone.